stay together, it's technically just a third side laner, so that could be what he meant by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about this tournament is we get to have a glimpse into how people are playing 3.8, sorry, how people are rocking and rolling on this new update. We'll take a look at the bans so far. On the blue side, we have a Chernarok and Idris taken off the board. Very interesting to see him gone. But again, with this very carry prevalent meta, I can see Idris being strong.
Yeah, definitely, but look at these picks coming off. The big carries right away. Silvernail, Kinetic, and Kestrel as the first 3 picks. A very different draft from our first game.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be an exciting game. Silvernail, we basically didn't see in the Summer Open. We were begging players to draft it, and now we're going to see it as a first pick for Oldskool. And let's bear in mind, incredibly mechanically intensive hero. I'm excited to see it in Oldschool's hands.
It really just took a little bit of time for players to kind of adapt to this Silvernail, because it was, I've seen other events that have been going on over the past month or so, and Silvernail has been incredibly prominent. So it's one of those heroes that there's so much going on with his kit. There's so many different things you have to be keeping track of that the players just weren't comfortable playing with it yet. But now that they've had more time, it's starting to be a prevalent force as one of the dominant carries.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to see Adagio locked in here as well, which last game we saw a weapon power Adagio coming out from Truth of Light. Oh my goodness, there are so many carries. I'm really unsure how they're going to play this competition or what kind of direction they go with this, but I'm excited to see it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they're going to get anything tanky on their side, because again, so many teams are just picking up more and more carries, more and more squishy heroes, and just kind of throwing them at each other and saying, you know what, we're just going to out-damage you, we're going to beat you by just making sure that all of your heroes are dead before you can even get to ours. But with a Finn and a Lance to act as a bit of a front line. Obviously, Arden, we're going to be seeing Arden more as a weapon-powered bruiser than we are going to be seeing him as a tank. So the Oldskool side has that little bit of durability, has that front line that might actually pose a difficult task for for XenoTek side to get past, to get onto that Silvernail, to get onto those other carries.
Yeah, Cathro will be the final lock in there, so at least there's some kind of front line available for them. But when you look at these two compositions, there's two very different ways of playing the game. On Oldschool's side, we very much have Protect the Baron style composition where a lot of tankiness, a lot of CC and support available for that late game carry. On the other side, just pure damage.
I'm also curious if this is going to be a Crystal Baron as opposed to a Weapon Baron or not, because they have the Silvernail as well.
Shout out to PE
so
Lamb.
Without the, if it's not a Crystal Baron, they really don't have any crystal powered damage at all, unless this ends up being a Crystal Arden. So it's going to be interesting to see where these build paths are going to go.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's a Crystal Arden.
I would be as well, but
it's great in tank metas.
Players
but this
have
is
done very
meta.
different things, so we won't know until they're actually in game how they're going to be building. But I expect to see this being a CP Baron.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we were talking before this game about XenoTek's team, how Chuck is going to be really one of the staple players, but I don't even know what Chuck's going to be playing off the back of that draft, because basically everything is a carry on their lineup. I mean,
it makes sense. You look at who they have. You know, XenoTek, who's known for playing the carry junglers in 3v3, Chuck, PvP, TiVo, all carries. So it makes a lot of sense.
It really does. It's about time we jump on into this one. I'm going to pass it back over to Humanist and Ex-Scoundrel as we get ready to rock and roll with this one. We're jumping into this game. It's XenoTek going up against Oldskool.
We are on the rise, ready for our second Fantasy All-Star match of the day. My name's Humanist, and I'm joined by the one and only Ex-Scoundrel. Ex-Scoundrel, are you ready for the battle of these two titans?
Well, I wasn't ready for the last one, Humanist. I'm damn sure not ready for this one, I tell you that. It's Oldskool versus XenoTek, and just looking at these competitions, I don't think either of them were lying when they said it's about how many carries you can fit into a team. XenoTek has fit 4 carries into his team and then just stuck PvP Warrior on Catherine. I assume well-timed Storm Shields on that front line. They're going to be able to absorb the damage while the rest of the team has that positional advantage, trying to play around the Catherine as that positional anchor. That is what I believe the idea is. Or they're just going to go for full split push Humanist, which is a strategy that doesn't really work very well in VG right now, but maybe they're the first team to make it work.
You know what? As these players just get better and better and more intelligent as time goes on, you'll see more of these strategies developing. This is really my take on it.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we'll end up seeing. You know, you'll see more split push when it comes to communication, because obviously it's a very highly communicative strategy to employ. And because the map of the VG or VG map or the Rise is so easy to navigate, it is a difficult one to make work, especially as you're pushing towards those armory turrets, because they are so easy to transition from one armory side to the other armory side, and so you don't get much time to take those turrets. But with the multiple carry compositions, there is lots of 1v1 potential. You could use that to find those split push. Interestingly enough, no one's running a dedicated jungler. I don't know if you've noticed this. XenoTek's team is just not running a jungler. They've got 2 in the top lane, 2 in the mid lane, and then they've got PvP Warrior holding the bot lane by himself, and then they're just sharing the jungle as they rotate around it as a unit.
Gentleman's agreement here. You know, they're taking it as necessary. This is about, it's not just about going through the motions. It's about doing it because it is the most efficient rotation and move for your team. I'd expect nothing less out of teams of this caliber. Now, Scoundrel, as we look at these two squads here, Team Oldskool versus Team XenoTek, does one really stand out to you as having a bit of an advantage as far as players or otherwise?
I think Baron's probably pretty broken with the new tension bow, so, and I think Silvernail's probably up there as well. So I think in terms of tension bow users, which to be honest seems to be dominating the meta right now, I would say if we get to a point where we can get 3 items on Hammy and Oldskool who gets similar equivalent, then as this game progresses into the later stages, it's going to be very, very Oldskool favored. I think that if you are the side of a XenoTek's team, you don't really have a front line, and you're really relying on Catherine to be your positional anchor, I think they are the ones that are going to start to struggle. They're the ones that are going to have to be careful. How does that Kestrel
kind of fare into Silvernail?
I mean, what? I mean, they're not facing up against. Oh, they are kind of facing up against.
Well, I mean, like as you get into the late game carry situation, you know, you seem to put some weight onto the Silvernail hero.
Yeah, he's just scales really well, and he uses tension bow really well, and I think the strict burst damage that will come out from him, if you catch any one of these carries, maybe 3 or 4 basic attacks is going to chunk them down very heavily. This is the point. I do feel like XenoTek's team is on a little bit of a timer, even though they've got the scaling with the weapon power Kestrel and the kinetic. I don't think that they're going to win the scaling race versus a Silvernail and a Baron, especially Baron with the new tension bow, which I think is going to hit like a monster.
I'm excited to see what this Baron can do as we do start to get some items built up. But right now, Team XenoTek applying a little bit of pressure in the mid lane onto this T1 turret. Shaded Talon and Oldskool making the rotation up from the jungle after picking up that weapon buff on Oldskool here. They'll be able to clear out this wave and maybe look to thwart XenoTek, who's moved deep into their jungle. They're not really going to do so. It's Oldskool looking for a bit of a trade.
I will actually give massive credit to XenoTek here. Because of the way that they've split their resources in the top and the mid lane, they're constantly pressuring that blue side jungle of one second, I'm literally just mind blanked. Oldskool. I'm going to do this every time, unfortunately, Humanist. I'm going to mind blank every time when it comes to naming the teams.
I'm used to it, so nothing new there.
They're pressuring those turrets very heavily, and because they have the superior siege in the mid lane, they can rotate out of that jungle, get damage down onto either the top or the mid first turret, and you feel like that first turret is going to go straight over to XenoTek's team because of these rotations and because of that very strong siege that they've got in the mid lane. The wave clear is very low for Oldskool and Shaded Talon. So versus XenoTek and Chuck, that's going to be a real issue for them as this goes on.
We say this, but they're poking on that turret already. Actually, the turret dropped up in top lane, Neon Fire 2 versus 1, having a hard time kind of dealing with that push that's happening there. Simultaneously, this very similar push happening down in the bottom lane. PvP Warrior, though, keeping that turret up for the time being. It looks like the current action will be happening in mid, though. 4 heroes from Team XenoTek. The shot calls have been made over here. Captain, my captain. How do you command players like this?
They have to be so careful, though, because one wrong foot in this situation, near that mid lane tier 1, they are so squishy. Lance and Arden at this point, they are tanky, just naturally tanky in terms of their stats. They've got a good amount of base weapon power, and they are working up towards that tension bow. Once that comes online, like, if you misstep even slightly here, Humanist, someone's going to die on the side of XenoTek. They are a very positional-heavy team, and something that is very easy to exploit on the side of Oldskool is the fact that they can abuse any carry that is out of position.
I'd like to see them just get some vision down behind Chuck, look to have a little bit of a wrap around there, and go to town. Once again, though, 4 heroes from Team XenoTek. But over here, Team Oldskool have 3. They're kind of just very softly stopping any aggression coming out here. You see Silvernail just setting up, dropping down these stakes, looking for a good second stake that they can engage with. Nothing happens, so everybody fans out across the map. Maybe Team XenoTek thinking about Ghostwing, but Team Oldskool also know that this is definitely potentially on the menu. They hang out down here. And once again, it's just a bit of a standoff back and forth. This is a very heavy cognitive game. Neon Fire, has he found TiVo in the top lane? Ion Cannon, get him! Oh, what a juke out of TiVo! That's almost better than a kill.
It's very much almost better than a kill. Neon just needed to land one more basic attack, but didn't feel like he had the cooldown on his roll to be able to do so. And again, they've left that mid lane open. Xeno is now going to push onto it with Chuck, and that siege in the mid lane has worked out so well. But check out Oldskool around Ghostwing.
Oh, Hammy debating in here. The gauntlet comes down from Gatsby. There's nowhere to go. He's down. First blood, 7.5 minutes in. It's a spicy game. The pullback, Shaded Talents got XenoTek. He's down. Team captain's fallen. And Chuck doesn't know what to do without his dearest XenoTek by his side. It looks like this will be a Ghostwing capture by Team Oldskool as they start to solidify a bit of an early game advantage here.
They've definitely got a little bit of a gold deficit to, they've got a gold lead to work with right now. Even though they are down in turrets, they haven't even taken their first turret, but they are up in gold overall. That should be remedied in the bot lane soon enough. They did a lot of work to that bot lane tier 1 with the Baron. That first Ghostwing is certainly going to help them in that mid lane push too. But again, any advantages that I think you claim right now as Oldschool's team is better for you in the long run because you scale really well and you abuse how squishy this composition is from XenoTek. I don't know, you know, I think this idea of having multiple carries in your team is fine, but you do need someone to frontline. It's all about the amount of damage that your frontline can absorb versus the amount of damage that the enemy can put out. And because there are specialized resources now in terms of building metal jackets, which is primarily designed for armor, and you know, there is specialized defenses out there, because of all these tension bows, it's so easy to itemize defensively as well for the side of Oldskool. They can just shove that armor onto them, and they've got that big beefy frontline that can absorb Chuck, it can absorb XenoTek, and it can absorb TiVo, whilst in the meantime, you've got long range, heavy hitting burst carries from Hammy and Oldskool who are going to wreck all of your carries in a couple of shots.
So smart of drafting, so smart of composition making coming out of Team Oldskool. You wonder how anybody can really stand up to players of this caliber. And, you know, they talked about the work they put in overnight after drafting up this squad, and it's really just unparalleled so far.
And you can see now Oldskool picked up the tornado trigger. He has got a lot of attack damage there. He's resetting his perk. He's going to be also dealing insane burst damage if he gets those crits onto anybody. And he will be going, I think, likely going towards a tension bow himself as well. It is just such a strictly broken item at this point in time. Nice silence there as well to stop anybody moving through onto Gatsby. The one shot, one kill gets absorbed up, but it is an Arden. He is naturally tanky because of his perk. And again, that front line can eat those arrows, eat those basic attacks for days while Oldskool and Hammy do the work.
I mean, Gatsby, that's what he wants. He wants to just embrace that damage coming out of Team XenoTek. It's all about just the mind games. And you know what the cool thing about this is as well is, like, they can take that damage, but you forget about that Arden for 1 second, and he's just blood for blood in your back line. That's not going to feel good. Doesn't matter how much damage you can pump out as a Kestrel.
Exactly, and he's max blood for blood too, which you do on Weapon Power Arden, which means you're going to be hitting like a truck, my dude. That is a very hard-hitting ability as well with the Tension Bow online, and it's only going to get more impactful the more weapon power you build. Remember, Tension Bow is a decent first item, but it scales now. It scales like a mother flipper. It is honestly one of the best late-game scaling items in the game right now, so the more weapon power you add to it, the harder you're going to hit.
Oh, Hammy, or I was going to say Oldskool. No, Hammy about to pick his up as Oldschool's engaged upon in the mid lane. Is able to get back. He takes some nice damage from that pulse there, but he'll be able to get back. Nice pull with Shaded Talon. The gauntlet goes down. Oh, man, that was good.
And again, exactly as we talked about, one person out of position and it is exploited by the Arden, and suddenly they are blown up with a couple of basic attacks coming out from Hammy on this Baron. That is what you have to be worried about if you're XenoTek in this composition. And because Reflex Block now builds into Aegis and it's not exactly the same level of defensive item that it once was, the Reflex Block cooldown is longer as well. You have to be so careful about when you use that particular defensive ability. Because if you let that go for free, like, you know, you accidentally double block on the fin hook, then that Ardent Gauntlet is going to lock you in there, and you're going to be mincemeat for these carries on the side of Oldschool's team.
When you're playing against players of the caliber of Shaded Talent and Gatsby, you're going to get stunned up. You're going to get hit by one of these abilities. A Scoundrel, it's just not something that you can reliably be double blocking. I said it.
Reliably, I like it. You finally got that sentence worked out. And I think, and I think again, this is just another compositional outdraft right now. Oldschool's team. I just don't see many ways that you can even threaten Baron and Silvernail in this competition, because again, you have no one that's really going to be able to get to that backline. You have to work your way through the Arden and the Lance.
Then you don't, right?
Exactly.
You have to be so powerful that front line fears you. Otherwise, you just lose the game.
And that's why I think people are sometimes overlooking some of the CP assassin type carries. Although weapon power carries are broken right now, people like Anchor, people like Reza, if you still build them CP, they will shred these guys. They will absolutely shred those backline carries that XenoTek team is running. Imagine if you had an Anchor that was fed this game, or a Reza that was fed this game.
An Ozo?
Yeah, an Ozo. I mean, no, it's not even trolling, dude. Ozo could do the similar kind of thing. You know, and I think you shouldn't be quick to overlook. Just because Tension Bow's broken doesn't mean that CP builds and Aftershock build carries.
You know, don't mind my excitement. This is just the black coverage, but Hammy, he just two-shot TiVo almost all the way down. That was nuts.
Exactly, and that's you know, you step forward to CS, or you step forward to hit Blacklaw, you take a couple of those Baron shots, you are dead, my dude. You are absolutely dead, and that's exactly what TiVo just experienced there. The range of Baron as well as it scales up. There's the Gauntlet.
Gauntlet with Gatsby in, looking for the MPL. Neon Fire oversteps himself a little bit. Gatsby stays alive with a fountain at the end as the Hellfire Brew connects. But this is Team XenoTek onto the back foot. They're gonna lose base turret, but not the armory. They'll stay alive for the time being, but it sure feels like this team is absolutely on the back foot. XenoTek signs the life, he'll move out. They found
Hammy!
Hammy came around the backside. Oh, Hammy! He will go down, feeding over a double kill, but sure, that felt good.
They got a lot of gold off that push, though. They are actually not too far in the lead. I thought they'd be much further in the lead than they are right now. They're only about 1,500, so some of that shutdown and comeback gold coming in and paying dividends right now. I'm wondering if any defensive resources are going to be invested in by XenoTek's team. Doesn't look like it for now. And again, they just need to make sure they don't overcommit. I think that was a big overcommit from Oldschool's team there, especially Neon and Gatsby, who, whilst they are naturally tanky, they haven't really built many defensive items, especially Gatsby. I mean, he's built none. He's actually just got a reflex block.
That's why he's doing so well.
Well, I mean, he's doing a hell of a lot of damage. He's 103, but he's also going to get shredded very quickly. So some armor being picked up wouldn't go amiss here, I think, for that front line, because they have that tension bow online. They just need one extra item to make it worth it. You know, and then they can feasibly be at that damaging front line. There's the pull, gets blocked.
Shaded Talent's going to be 55 seconds or so before he'll be throwing another Force Accord out. But still, Team Oldschool march forward. Look at this four-man rotation as they wait for Hammy to clean up some of that jungle and then kind of meet up with their squad down in this bottom lane. They've broken the mid lane open. They want to break this bottom lane open and just take XenoTek down here. I feel like this is going to be like a sub 20-minute game. Probably the next team fight. If it goes in favor of Team Oldschool, I think it's going to be a victory.
No, I think I agree. This is one of those games where one team fight is going to decide it for you. And you can even see Oldschool picking up some armor here, respecting how much weapon power damage is coming out on the side of Team XenoTek. And he's already got his core items that make him sort of very powerful. He's got the Tornado Trigger, he's got the Tension Bow. He's gone for the Tornado Trigger because he's not worried about scaling damage in these fights. Who do you need to scale your damage up against on the side of XenoTek? Absolutely no one. You're very happy to just have the Tornado Trigger combined with the Tension Bow, because it's all about strict burst damage right now. Everybody on that team can get burst, so the Tornado Trigger is the better item choice in this situation. But yeah, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier about how people are overlooking some of the assassin CP carries. I'll talk about it again in a second because we've got another engage.
Gatsby, gauntlet down, forces out a few blocks. TiVo, an early Hellfire Brew in this one, as Oldschool's on the front side with a rebuke, knocks PvP Warrior back, but Team XenoTek just start to evaporate here as they're getting eaten alive. Looks like that'll be two people left for Team XenoTek, Chuck and PvP Warrior. And really, if they weren't able to accomplish anything as 5, they won't be able to get anything done as 2. And this game should be over in a matter of moments here. Really, look at them. They're basically just ignoring Chuck and PvP Warrior as if they don't even exist on the map.